Thanks, Matt. So I've just entered the St. Publius Hall in Floriana, where I will conduct the interview with Mr. Carl Ajus to see what he's picked up over the years. Thank you very much for meeting me today to do this interview. So, for our first question, classes consist of practice drills and free assaults. Could you elaborate on what that means?
Okay, so practice drill is basically a repetitive movement that you do over and over again to learn a technique, some concept. Basically, it's an exercise that you do over and over again until you get used to what you're practicing. It basically gives you the foundation of the techniques you're going to use later on. Free assault is basically a fight, so it's not choreographed, it's not scripted, and basically what you have there are two fencers who are trying to hit each other using whichever techniques they're practicing. So again, it's basically using what they learned in the drills into an actual situation.
So is the sport itself dangerous?
Well, not really. I mean, if you're careless, it could be. But as you can see, we wear protective clothing. We also have gloves, which I'm not wearing right now, and a mask, obviously. Some accidents can happen sometimes, like I've just broken a fingernail, for example, but that's like once in 8 years. So compared to football or cycling, I think it's actually pretty safe.
So where do you get the weapons and clothing for the sport from?
Well, most of the equipment is sourced from normal suppliers. It used to be a bit harder to find equipment, but in the last 10 years it's really picked up, so there are plenty more shops selling equipment, more equipment manufacturers, so that helps a lot. Again, weapons are also manufactured by a variety of suppliers. Most we get ours from one particular smith, who we know personally, so yeah, we even get a little customization in when we can, so that's nice. Shipping the equipment in really isn't that much of a hassle. Remember that even if it's a sword-shaped object, there is no edge on it and there is no point, so it's not actually a sharp weapon, which would be a problem to import, of course.
And could you please tell us more about the combat style you use?
Of course. No, the thing is that styles vary depending on the weapon used, the period one is studying. So, for example, 14th century longsword would be quite different from 16th century longsword, and a small sword is obviously very different from a spear. So that goes with the weapon. However, there are some principles that are common. Doesn't matter what you're using, doesn't matter if you have a spear or whether you're barehanded. That's basically like managing the distance between oneself and the opponent, remaining covered so that one doesn't expose oneself too much, and none of the Hollywood style waving around, because that just exposes your targets and you're going to get killed very quickly. So whatever you're using is basically defending yourself, finding the right angle of approach, managing the distance, and when you find the timing and an opening, then you go in without uncovering yourself. It's more about not getting hit. It's not about hitting your opponent. It's about walking away from it when you're done.
Alright, well that's it for now. Back to you, Matthias. I have my own battles to fight.